Hey guys, this is me Tyler. Today, I'm going to be going over the top 5 best strength weapons in Bloodborne. And if you disagree with me, let me know down in the comments, because this is my opinion on what the top 5 best strength weapons in Bloodborne are. So the first weapon, and of course the best strength weapon, the Whirligig Saw. The Whirligig Saw just cheeses every enemy game. You can get it pretty early on because it's in the DLC. You can access the DLC super early. And holding the L2 just, it just melts through enemies. So this is why the Whirligig Saw is OP. And it gets some good strength scaling. It's probably going to get the most strength scaling out of all the Bloodborne strength weapons. Because it gets an S scaling when it's at plus 10 and more S scaling than a Ligarius wheel. But it won't do as much damage as the Ligarius wheel, because it only has a starting physical of 95, which isn't that bad for a strength weapon, and it still does lots of damage. And then for the fourth attack, the R1 combo, it still hits the enemy because the saw is still spinning, so you could just keep repetitively hitting him, like the Jizo wheel in Elden Ring. You can get the same skill, like the Jizo wheel in Elden Ring, but instead you hold the Whirligig Saw like a halberd. And then the mace is pretty good, it only adds up to a little bit of range, because it's just adding a small saw to a mace. So Whirligig Saw is one of the best strength weapons, and there's nothing to go wrong with it. Number 2, the Saw Cleaver. It gets stupid strength scaling and stupid damage. But how can it be a strength weapon when it's so freaking fast? Well, it does get a C scaling and strength when it's at plus 10. But that doesn't mean it's the worst strength weapon in the game, but it's still practically the best, since C scalings are pretty much the minimum scalings out of any weapon in the game. Like, a Hunter Axe, you can get some of the same scalings, which is usually a strength weapon instead. But Saw Cleaver, we can get a starting of 90 physical, which isn't that bad for any strength weapon. Less damage than the Whirligig Saw. But the pointless part about this weapon is that it does less damage when you transform it. Like, what? Why don't you attack with the serrated part, like when it's a saw instead of cleaver? Like, what? Okay, it still gives you a ton of range. It's just saying, and you can literally start with this. It's still the best weapon in the game, though. Well, if you did decide to use it. And you can use it at any point in the game. Like the Saw Cleaver and the Saw Spear. Those both are pretty good. Yeah, all the weapons are pretty good. Saw Cleaver usually for strength and Saw Spear usually for dexterity. But anyways, Saw Cleaver is one of the best strength weapons, and I'm not gonna disappoint it for how good it is. And not for its bad strength scaling, but still how early on you can get it. Number 3, the Ligarius wheel. A weapon you can get early on if you just capture Vicar Amelia, and if you are strong enough to kill the NPC that drops the Wheel Hunter badge. And you get the most damage out of any weapon because it does a crap ton of damage, just sharing 100 physical damage and 25 arcane damage when it's plain. At first, I didn't even know what the L2 did, except for draining your health. But not like the Saw Cleaver, it still gets more damage. But I mean, the L2 kind of gives you more damage, but it just drains your health, which is pretty much pointless since it doesn't give you that much damage, but just a tiny bit of damage. So that's why I don't really use the L2 to the Ligarius wheel. And the fact that the church weapon instead of a Vile Blood weapon, since Archie Ligarius is at Cainhurst Castle, which is a Vile Blood castle with the Chicago and Fighter Palast, or whatever you call it. But I usually use the most damaging weapons for beasts. That's why I have the gold blood gem on here that you get from Vicar Amelia, which is an early game boss. Anyways, Bulgarius, we will also get an S scaling in strength, but not as much as scaling as the Whirligig Saw. It actually needs Arcane, and it doesn't scale off of Dexterity like the Whirligig Saw. And it's got poor scaling for Arcane, which I don't even know why, but Bulgarius Wheel will do a crap ton of damage, and yeah. This weapon is not that bad of a strength weapon, probably one of the best weapons in the game, and there's the Bulgarius Wheel. Oh, and it's pretty good, actually. Before the Beast Cutter, just like the Saw Cleaver, it gets stupid damage and stupid scaling, but the only different side of the Beast Cutter than the Saw Cleaver has is that Strength Formation gets the most range out of any melee damage since it's a chained whip. Besides the Threaded Cane, if Bloodborne didn't get a DLC weapon that was this long, then the Threaded Cane would for sure be the longest range weapon for this transformation. But you don't even have to be that close to the enemy, so you don't have to avoid getting hit so much because you can stay back. The R2 also gets the most range close enough, which makes this weapon so good. It also gets some scaling and strength, like the Saw Cleaver, but at least it's gonna get more damage. But just like the Saw Cleaver, the transformation will get less damage than how the club is. But the club gets less range as well, but it's still good for any point. And since it's a DLC weapon, you can get it early on, because you can get to the DLC like in the early game, like you're killing Vicaria, which isn't that type of a boss for me. And the range is like the longest. I didn't even expect this to be the best strength weapon in the game, except just it is one of the best strength weapons in the game, and will always be the best strength weapon in the game. Just one of them, because it is a DLC weapon, and yeah, this gets the longest range out of any melee weapon in the game. And the final weapon, the Tonitrus. It is not like the Saw Cleaver or Beast Cutter, because it actually gets a B scaling in strength when it's maxed out, but not an A or S scaling like an actual strength weapon would get. But still gets some nice damage. And the fact that it gets bolt damage as well. The bolt is one of the best damage in the game. But if you're fighting a boss like Dark Priest Carl, then it's not going to be really the best choice. And the transformation. It's not really a transformation because it just buffed the weapon with even more damage than what it usually was, but only for a short time. And you can get it in your Hardle Unseen Village, which you can get like at the beginning of the game after killing Gasoline, and having one of these guys that the people will kill you, they will take you there. And then it's out in the yard where all the rats are, or pigs or whatever. But yeah, the Tonitrus is not that bad of a strength weapon. The buff does tons of damage, even though it's a bowling ball on a stick. So it's not going to take you through a lot of the game, because it does bolt damage. And just buffs the weapon with even more bolt damage, because you already buffed the weapon. And even more. And so there's nothing bad about this weapon. I know it doesn't get that much range. It only gets as much range as like a Saw Cleaver maybe, but it's not the worst strength weapon in the game. Anyways, Tonitrus is some people's favorite weapon because it's a bowling ball on a stick. It's sort of bolt damage, even though you don't put the blood gem on the weapon that does bolt damage. It still does bolt damage. So if you use the blood gem, you get more bolt damage, but you can't use paper to buff the weapon with like fire or bolt, because it already does bolt damage. But yeah. Anyways, if you like that video, please like and subscribe, and comment down below what your favorite weapon is on this list. Well, if it is your favorite weapon.